Okay guys, we're doing Unit 2, Day 10. So we're going to use the Law of Sines and the Law of Cosines for some word problems today. So I'm just going to put a little helpful hint at the top up here. When we see side angle side or side side side, that's when it's going to be the Law of Cosines. Everything else is going to be the law of sines. So I'm going to flip back and forth in our book so you guys can, use that as a reference to double check your answers and what equations that we're going to be using. So the directions say draw and label a diagram to represent the information. We're going to write a basic trig equation, represent the information, and solve the problem. So two forest rangers are 12 miles apart from each other on a road and both sight an illegal bonfire. So let's just go ahead and start as we're going with a triangle here. So it says two forest rangers. So let's just call this Ranger 1 and Ranger 2. So they're 12 miles apart. So we know that the distance in here is 12. Right there. So that's a given for us. It says, using their radios to communicate with each other, they determined that the fire is between them. So the fire is going to be back here. So I'm going to label this third side up here our fire. The first ranger's line of sight to the fire makes an angle of 38 degrees. So Ranger 1 that we labeled right down here is 38 degrees. And it says the second ranger's line of sight up to the fire makes an angle of 63 degrees. So now I've labeled everything that I have. So I'm looking at what I have, and I have an angle, side, angle. So that's what's given to me. Remember, it has to be in between the sides. So I have angle, side, angle. So if I look back at the note that I wrote at the top, that's not law of cosines. So I'm going to flip back in my book to the law of sines here. So remember this formula right here. So we're going to do this right here. We said angle, side, angle is 1, and that's what we said is the case here. So we have angle, side, angle. So I'm going to go, again, flip back if you don't remember. Copy it down. Remember the the uppercase A, B, and C, those are your angles, and then your lowercase are your sides. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to write it out. Now, we don't have anything labeled here, right? So you can just choose to label whatever sides you want. So I'm going to say this is A down here. I'm going to make this one B, and then I'm going to make my fire C. It doesn't matter which way you label them. It's just going to help you when it's time to go plug in the information into your equation. So the sine of angle A we have. So it's the sine of 38 over. Now, side A is opposite of our angle. We don't have that. So let's look at sine B. So that's our angle of 63. And we're looking for a side across from angle B, and we do not have that either. So we are going to put our lowercase b, and then we're going to look for sine of C. Now remember, we don't have a value for there, but we can find it. If we're given two angles, if you remember, all three angles are going to add up to 180. So I'm going to take 180, I'm going to subtract 38, which is our angle A, and then I'm going to subtract 63, which is our angle B, and I have 79. So I have the sine of 79 for C. And I'm going to label that up here in my triangle as well, so don't forget about that. And then I have the side of C. So remember, you have to have 3 of the 4 pieces to solve, to cross multiply. So if you look here, I have both of my C's and one of my B. So I'm going to cover up my A. I'm not going to worry about that right now. And I'm going to cross multiply these two right here. So I'm going to do the sine of 63 times 12. So I'm going to write 12 times the sine of 63 equals the sine of 79 times B. So we're going to enter that into our calculator. So I just plugged all of it in my calculator here. So I did 12 times the sine of 63. I got 10.69. And then I divided that by the sine of 79 to solve for B. And my answer comes out to be 10.89. So B equals 10.89. So B, the distance from the second ranger, is 10.89. So now I'm going to plug that distance in for my B here and cross multiply with my A, or I'm going to go back to my C. I'm going to suggest that you guys use the C just in case you made a math error. So I have one of my answers right up here, and I'm going to cross multiply again. So I'm going to cross multiply my A. So covering up my B, I'm going to cross multiply the sine of 38 times 12. So I'm going to do the sine of 38 times 12 equals the sine of 79 times A. So again, I'm going to do that in my calculator. So I'm going to do 12 times the sine of 38, and then I'm going to divide that by the sine of 79 to get my answer for A. And then A is 7.52. Oh, 7.5. Yeah, so 7.5 is good there. So it asks how far is the fire from each ranger. So you can say Ranger 1 is 7.5 miles away, and Ranger 2 is 10.89 miles away. So there's the first one. So now that we kind of got the handle for that, let's go a little faster on the second one here. A medical rescue helicopter flies 50 miles to pick up an accident victim and then flies 45 miles to the hospital. So again, we're going to do a triangle here. So it says a medical rescue helicopter flies 50 miles. So we're going to label one of our sides 50. And let's just say the victim, the accident is here. So just, you can choose, again, whatever sides you want. So the accident, so they flew, this is where they started from, so we'll just call this the base that we have right down here. So here's the base. He flew 50 feet to the accident, and then it says, then he flies 45 miles to the hospital. So we're going to call this the hospital down here. So we have two sides. It says the angle formed between the flight to the accident and the flight to the hospital. So the flight from the accident to the hospital and the flight up here. So we are going to label right up here, 130. So now we have to identify what we're given. So we have a side, angle, side. So if you look up at the top, we made that note. If it's a side, angle, side, we're going to use the law of cosines. So you guys can flip back to your table. Let me see if I have one. Oh, here we go. Right here. So we're going to use side, angle, side. So right here, we're given an angle. So you can pick, remember I said, label all three sides first. So I'm going to say this is A. I'm going to say this one's B. And I'm going to say this one's C. So if my angle is given for B right here, do you see that? That's the only angle that I have given. That's what I'm going to end up using down here. So I have my side, angle, side. So I'm going to start right here. So I'm going to solve for my side that's missing right here, B squared. So here's my table, if you guys double check that. Angle B is what's given, so we're going to solve for the side of B because that's the only angle I have. So I'm going to write down B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2AC times the cosine of B. Now it looks like a lot of information, but it's not too bad. So B squared we don't have, that's what we're solving for. So A squared is the side opposite of A, so 45 squared plus 50 squared minus 2 times 45 times 50 times the cosine of our angle, the cosine of 130. So go ahead and solve that. Plug that into your calculator and see what you end up with. And you should end up with kind of a big number because it's going to be B squared. And your number should be something around this, 7,417. So because it's a B squared, we're going to take the square root of that, and we're going to get about 86.1 miles. So the answer is the hospital is 86.1 miles from the base. All right, last one. 2 radar stations are 2.4 miles apart from tracking, 2 miles apart are tracking an airplane. So I'm going to start again with my triangle. Okay, so 2 radar stations. So let's just call this radar station A and radar station B. Okay? So it says 2 radar stations are 2.4 miles apart. So we know that the side between the 2 of them is 2.4. The straight line distance between station A and where the plane is, so the straight line distance is 7.4. So we have our plane up here, and we know that this distance is 7.4. The straight line distance between the plane and the station B is 6.9. So we know we have this side down here, 6.9. What's the angle of elevation from station A to the plane? So we have A over here. So we are going to identify what we know. So we have 3 things given to us, and it's going to give us a side, side, side for solving this problem today. So if you look back up at the top, we made that note. Side angle side or side 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 is going to be the law of cosines. So again, we have side 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 for this one. So let's look back. You guys can flip back to page 37, just a couple pages back. And these are what we have for side side side. So it gives you your 3 sides, and then we're going to solve for one particular angle here. So I think we said, let's see, angle A. So it says, what's the angle of elevation from angle A? So let's take this first one right here. So we're going to solve for angle A. So we're going to write the cosine of A equals b squared. I'm just copying it right down off of the screen. B squared plus c squared minus a squared all over 2 times b times c. So you take the information you have given and you plug that in. So we don't have a cosine of angle A. That's what we're going to solve for. So b squared, remember, you're going across. So this is my b here, 7.4 squared plus c squared. So my plane is going to be c plus 2.4 squared minus a squared, 6.9 squared, all over 2 times b, again, 7.4, times c, which is 24. So go ahead, take a minute, plug that into your calculator. I'm going to remind you, do the top, hit enter, do the bottom, hit enter, and then divide. So we'll do 7.4 squared plus 2. So we have 12.91 over 2 times 7.4 times 2.4. I missed my decimal place there. So 35.52. So now I'm going to do 12.91 divided by 35.52. And I get 0.36345. So I go back to what my question's asking for, and it's asking for the angle of elevation. So if you look at that number, it's way too little for us to have an angle. So you have to remember what we need to do. So we're going to do second, and we're going to do cosine. That's what we have up here. That's what we're solving for. So second cosine, and then second answer to get the angle. So it's 68, let's say 68.69 or 68.7, we can round to 68.7 degrees. So the angle of elevation is 68.7 degrees. And that's it for day 10.